but we're all a little hesitant because we don't want to put ourselves into a corner. And that gentleman said, zoning can be as laser specific or as general as we want to make it. You can have overlays that are agricultural or business. You can have mixed use. You put your zoning into districts that the committee would form, and they can be zoned in different ways, or they can be zoned the same. So lots of options for us. It's not just like one use gets stuck on us and that's our use forever. We also need to remember in the conversation, we may set something in place, and as happens in life, we didn't think about something that comes up in the future. Everything we do with a vote can be undone with a vote. So this is not written in stone once we set this. You know, if something else changes, which obviously is going to happen, who would predict data centers? So, you know, there is going to be something down the road that someone in our community that wants to do it, and it may be the best idea. We may all be behind it. We'll put it on the ballot. You know? So, the first way that we start with zoning is a zoning committee has to be formed. And a zoning committee is 5 members with up to 2 alternates. The committee terms are set by the trustees, whether that's 6 months, a year, 2 years, 4 years. But ORC states that the way it is set up, there has to be a new zone member elected every year. Rotation, yes. So 4 from the previous year will stay, we'll get a new one. So on and so forth. So how do we get a zoning committee formed? There's 2 ways. The township trustees can put forth a resolution to form a zoning committee. 2 of the 3 trustees get second. 2 of the 3 trustees are okay with it. Now we can form a committee. If our trustees are not comfortable with making that resolution, we can get a petition and force them to put together a zoning committee. Okay? I've not talked to the trustees personally. I don't know what their feelings are on it. I'm just stating the 2 options for us to get a zoning resolution through the township process. So, we've got the board creates the length of the terms. Now, we have a planning commission in this county. Who has any experience with the planning commission? I do. I'm the alternate for a member on the committee, so I attend a lot of those meetings, and their job is to make sure that if we make any variances to easements or deeds, that we're doing it in so a way that it will not inhibit anyone's use of their land and so forth in the future. So it does suggest that we appoint a member of our county planning commission to serve on our zoning committee. We don't have to, just a suggestion, something food for thought. What are the powers and duties of the zoning committee? So the zoning committee shall submit a plan of recommendations for zoning to the township trustees. They shall adopt rules for transactions of its businesses, the committee's businesses, and keep records of actions and determinations. It shall seek counsel from public officials, departments, and agencies, and they shall make available for use to the zoning committee. And what that means is we can go to the engineer and say, I'm on the zoning committee, I need maps of Scioto Township, and they have to provide us with that. So in this ORC, anything that says shall has to be done, that's the law. Anything that says may is a very strong suggestion. So that's why I'm saying shall and may. So that process, let's say that happens, we get the zoning committee, they go out and they do their work, and now we have a plan that we want to bring back to the township trustees and present that. Before that happens, there's a 30-day notice of a public hearing. That means just in this very setup, we go over what the zoning commission or the zoning committee has stated, and we take input. Any changes, any adaptions, that's noted. This meeting has to have a 30-day publication in the paper. We would probably do more than that because we don't want to slide this under the rug. We want input. We want this to be our plan as a people. Okay? We're gonna make everybody happy? No. Can we make most people happy and I feel meet the majority of the needs? I do feel like that's possible. So, before certifying the recommendations, the trustees of the committee hold the public meeting. After the hearing, we present the planning commission presents to the county. Nope, I'm sorry. We have the public meeting. We have to go to the planning commission. Planning commission has to approve our plan. That's at the county level. They can deny it. They can approve it. They can make suggestions and send us back to the table. So if they approve it, the next step is another 30-day hearing. 30-day notice hearing because we went to the county, want to be able to give people feedback. If they deny it, we're back at the drawing board. Okay? That doesn't mean that it's over. That just means that they had some issues with it and we've got to go back and fix it. If they make suggestions, we make those suggestions and we go back to the 30-day hearing, the first 30-day hearing. Then planning commission, 30-day meeting, or 30-day hearing. So, we want to write it so that the planning commission passes it on that first one, which I think would make having a planning commission member on our committee make sense. So, I think those, the best way is to have the rulemakers with us. So, once we go to the planning commission and we make them happy, the trustees hold the last public hearing. We take input. If changes need to be made, we make those changes. The trustees will have another public hearing in 10 days. So this last 10-day hearing, that's like, okay, this is it. This is your chance to hear what we've got, your chance to put the input in. So now we are at 3 mandatory public hearings, possibly more.
And that's over, is that over now 4 months, Casey?
So,
When you look at the 30-day,
the timeline, I think a bust our butt timeline, an almost impossible timeline would be 160 days.
Sure.
Almost impossible timeline. 180, 6 months from now, we might be able to do it. Okay, and you think, wow, 6 months is a long time.
No, it's normal.
Real estate deals take a long time. We've got, I think, 6 months. We can get it on the November ballot. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but zoning is a special election reason. So, say we're not going to make the May deadline. Can't do it, it's impossible.
No.
We could make the November deadline by the skin of our teeth. If we don't, we can have a special election just for zoning.
Yeah, but you gotta pay for that.
But you gotta
Very
pay for it.
expensive.
I'm sure it is.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So can we get it out to the public, to the township? And I'd like to see a crowd here next week, like you had last week,
I can make that happen.
okay? I'd like to see a crowd here like that, so I know that the majority of them is interested in this. And if the majority that's here is interested in us doing this and going forward with it, then we go back to a moratorium and we can place it for 6 months.
So
Because
if,
that is the point that we're going on record that we are going to do zoning.
yeah, explain that to us. So if we go on record that we have a zoning commission being formed, at that point we can put a moratorium on, or does zoning have to be in
We can
place?
do it at that point.
So, what I'm asking though is that I want the support of the public.
100%.
I want the township, every person, I'd love to see 200 people here that was here last week.
Look, if this project had the support of the public, which is
Yeah.
what I would want, we'd all be roses.
Yeah.
I don't want to force zoning on anyone. That is
No.
not the way to do it. That's
No.
not the way to do it. I want to hear concerns. I want to hear feedback. I want every public meeting to have, I want full transparency, okay? This isn't, we know what we get and how we feel when we don't know what's going on, okay? If I am on the zoning committee, I will take you guys every step of the way. I'd love to be on the zoning committee, by the way. So,
That's what I wanted to ask you just a minute. I've been reading up on it, but I haven't got that far yet. What's the mandatory placement of people on the zoning committee? I mean, does there have to be a commissioner? Does there have to be a?
no, 5 people from the township.
But the trustees appoint the committee.
We
Yes.
appoint the committee, yes, but as she just said, as far as, if, it's gonna depend on, like, it'll be totally up to us who we want.
It will be totally up to the trustees.
And if we don't put stuff in place, then they can force us to.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to do a petition and put it on the ballot, this is kind of complicated. We need a petition signed by 8% of the registered voters that voted in the last governor's election. Now,
And you
luckily,
have to,
we
you
can
have
get
to
voter
verify,
polls.
and you have to verify
And
that.
they have to be verified. So, I mean, we would shoot for 100%, but,
But-
that would be the process.
And Aaron, do you agree though that we need to have a group as we had last week to see? I would like to see the majority, see what
Well,
they
you know,
think.
I mean, I wasn't here, but I know it was full.
Yeah,
So how many registered voters do we have in this township total?
I'm not going to the Board of Elections yet to see, what the exact number is on our.
Around
voting.
600.
Around 600. I know you know. You
I
guys
would
got a
say
lot.
that, I would like to think that we are a large voting township.
We used to be, but I'm not
Depends
sure we
depends on the
are.
election.
yeah. Depends on what's running, what's up.
General elections are always better attended. Yes, sir?
The percentage of voters, the 8%, does that have to be Scioto Township or Jackson County?
Scioto Township, registered voters from Scioto Township that cast a ballot in the last governor's election.
Zoning is a township issue.
Yes.
Zoning
Statewide.
is a complete township issue. Now, so we've got a timeline. There will be, I'm going to maximize my free resources and the people that, dare hand me a business card. They don't know what they're doing. But it may require a little bit of monetary resources to dot our i's and cross our t's. I'm not promising that, I'm just saying that we would want and need legal assistance to read over everything and make sure that we don't have unintended consequences. I do have some attorneys that we can contact and run things by them. But once we get into the meat and potatoes of this, it gets very technical. And it's all laid out in this big ugly stack of papers. Every single thing is laid out in this. So,
On something else, you talking about November elections, this has got to be done by August 15th. 45 days before the election is the last that anything can be put on the ballot.
that is not so according to ORC 519.01. We have to submit our info before 4 o'clock, 19 days before the election.
What you're talking about is for elected officials, for
Zoning.
zoning or other